Welcome to our Counterpoise podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Samantha Adams, and I'm joined by my other two co-hosts. They're going to introduce themselves.
Hi, guys. My name is Malik Foster, a co-host for the Counterpoise podcast.
And I am Everett Stevenson, another co-host of the Counterpoise podcast. So we have a great show up today. And before we get into the topic, we're going to get ready to jump into the Black Business of the Week. Just 1 second as we get ready to pull up their information and flyers here. This week we have a company who has been assisting young men and up and coming programs such as 1 second as I get the article pulled up right here. It's a young program called Turning Point in Lansing, Michigan, and this video I'm about to share the screen so you guys can see the program. Okay. This is a program that is administered by Mr. Lynn, great guy, one of my mentors. And in the state of Lansing, Michigan, they have a good program, annual program, in which they have young men that come in and meet with other gentlemen within the community to kind of help as mentors, to kind of just help get back into their community, to pour into the young men and try to help them have a sense of guidance in a sense, or just someone that they could talk to that they may not have in their homes and or at schools. So this is an event that, again, anybody can participate in and apply onto the website here. Contact Mr. Lynn if you would like to. The website is also called the Turning Point of Lansing.org. You can check them out. We apologize for delaying getting that information over to you guys, but again, that is Turning Points of Lansing.org, and they are a mentor group that work with young men within that area, in the metro area, and helping them with just, finding their way. I was a part of the program coming up, so I can attest to some of the things that we work on. It's gentlemen from all different walks of life, and cultural backgrounds, just coming together, just teaching young men how to be young men, how to conduct themselves in a way, how to navigate through certain things that we may go through, that we may need a little bit of guidance, a little bit of understanding from someone maybe with experience that can maybe help us to make decisions that we may not have initially would have thought of due to our limited perspectives on life. So it's a real good program. I definitely wanted to mention it so that if anyone is watching and I say not my metro, Greater Lansing area, and it's a young man that would like to get involved, here's a program that you guys can help out with. Yeah. And then today I want to go ahead and bring us into today's topic. Recently, the state of Texas has changed their abortion laws, and it is becoming one of this nation's strictest laws in regards to abortion. It is allowing for people who are not directly involved with the creation of life to have rights against health providers or actual individuals who may seek to acquire an abortion after 6 weeks of being pregnant. This law also allows them to receive. Financial compensation up to around $10,000. Again, even though they may not have been directly related to the creation of the life and or have rights to the life in which they may be sued to, in which they may be suing for. And so that's the state, excuse me, and just that is the state's part of the state's abortion law. And today we wanted to just kind of sit down and talk about that, let you guys know about some of the history of abortion, let you guys know about how this state law has changed in regards to some of our thoughts on that.
Yeah, so excuse me. I'm fighting a cold. I'm getting over a cold, guys. So pardon me. It's not COVID. Promise. I got tested. But as far as this abortion law goes, it is, like he said, it's the most restrictive. Georgia tried to pull that same fast one maybe 2 years ago. And theirs was at 4 weeks. After 4 weeks, you couldn't get an abortion. The Supreme Court of the United States overturned that law, deeming it unconstitutional. When the ACLU brought Texas's law to the Supreme Court with these new justices, they did the ostrich thing. They stuck their heads in the sand and they said they don't want to hear it. I think in part that has a lot to do with the fact that, it's more of a conservative bench now, and they would like to overturn it, but they have already vowed that they would not, especially too because of the precedents that has been set by, the famous Roe v. Wade case, but not only Roe v. Wade, also Casey versus Planned Parenthood, which is a huge case as it relates to abortion law that often people do not talk about. And so one of the things, let me just narrow it down a little bit from what you was talking about. The law states that any female who gets pregnant and is pregnant anytime after 6 weeks cannot get an abortion. First and foremost, most women don't know, or females, I can't even say women because some of them are children, some of them are girls. Like, if they get their period at a young age and if they're raped or they are victims of incest, things like that, they wouldn't know any better, right? So a lot of times, your period comes every 21 to 28 days. Okay, that's 4 weeks. So 2 weeks after that, you don't even know you're pregnant until well after that, for the simple fact that doctors, often tell you to wait a couple weeks before you even to see whether or not you're pregnant, for the simple fact that, number one, there are different things that can cause your period to come late. Stress is one of them. You know what I'm saying? Stress is a big one, illness, medication, there's a lot of different things. And so the thing about this law, which makes it so restrictive, is that there's no bypass. There's no judicial bypass for children, which is allotted for which is provided for from the Casey versus Planned Parenthood case. There's no nothing for victims of rape. So that means if someone is raped, they're forced to have the child of their abuser. And then on top of that,
you want to break down judicial bypass for some people too, so just in case that they don't know?
Sure. So judicial bypass is pretty much when if someone under the age of 18 gets pregnant for whatever reason, whether it be because they were impregnated by a family member, or if they get pregnant and they don't want their family to find out because they could end up homeless, they could get abused, whatever the reason is, they can actually petition the court themselves, and the court will determine whether or not it's okay for them to go ahead and get that abortion. That's a judicial bypass. The court will give them permission to get it if they can't get the permission from their parent. Back in the day, when you look at some of the archaic laws as it pertains to abortion, women could not get an abortion without their husband's permission. And sometimes it would be they got pregnant due to infidelity. And some men would be okay with it. Some men would divorce their wives, and some men would beat the brakes off of the wives. Sometimes, but he could go out and go do whatever he wanted to do and impregnate whoever. That also included rape. So, when people are traumatized or they go through these types of things, they don't necessarily want everybody's permission. A person should feel as though they can go take care of their own body and their own things on their own without having to get permission, especially as an adult. So the law that changed, that gave people females under the age of 18 the ability to get the judicial bypass to keep them protected, not just, from just going out and having abortions, but also too from being abused if their parents were to find out, right? Also gave women who were married the ability to have that right to go ahead and get their own abortions without permission from their husbands. That court case broke down a lot of things. You see what I'm saying? It gave a lot of different rights and permissions to women so that they can have more control over what goes on in their own bodies as it relates to abortion. Another thing that I wanted to go ahead and also touch on was the fact that when he was mentioning people not involved directly in the pregnancy. So that means if the doctor can be prosecuted, the Uber driver, if you have an Uber driver, a friend, anybody. And the thing is, it allows for everybody else in the world, well, in Texas rather, who knows this to tell on you. So it's like and then they pay you for snitching. So my personal opinion about the law, aside from the fact that I believe that it's completely unconstitutional, is the fact that I think that it gives these people permission to talk to who have absolutely no standing in the court of law to be rewarded for telling somebody else's business. And also too, the law doesn't allow for people who have medical conditions to be able to get an abortion. So if someone has a medical condition and they get pregnant and that pregnancy could potentially kill them, there's nothing there. That's it. So, the law, I think, is very, very unconstitutional, and shame on, in my personal opinion, people don't have to have the same opinion as me. That's their business. But that's the thing about pro-choice, right? I get to choose what I choose and what I want for my body. And if somebody else doesn't want to get an abortion, that's their business. It doesn't mean that I'm pro-abortion. It means I'm pro-choice. And so I think that people need to kind of mind their business. Malik. Oh, and before Malik goes in, I'm going to just go ahead and bring in my little friend, just so we all remember while we're here. This is Lady Justice. Justice is blind. Okay. The scales represent balance. She also carries a sword, which you see right here, because she fights. She's a fighter, right? And what you also don't see is she's standing on books. There's a serpent, all that stuff. So you guys, please do your research. You hear all these stories. I remember I had a discussion a number of years ago with a girl I went to high school with. She used to be a Democrat. She switched over to be Republican. She voted for Donald Trump. And when she was talking to me about the abortion law, she just was completely misinformed. She thought people could have abortions at like 6 months. And it's like, no, there's a viability law, which means that you cannot abort a baby once it's viable, meaning once, it could live outside the womb on its own. So sorry to go ahead and slide that in there, Malik, but I just wanted to make sure I let the people know what's going on with that law.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, one of the interesting things about the law that one of the Supreme Court justices, I believe it was Sotomayor, in the dissent, said that basically now the private citizens are enforcing the law through lawsuits. So, like, if you know of somebody who aided the abortion or something like that, you can enforce a lawsuit against them, which I'm very shocked about seeing that. Well, I'll bring up an article later in the show today that will kind of outline some of this stuff. It's a really good article. It'll show you some of the statutes, and then also it will provide an explanation to those statutes. So it's pretty interesting that you get 45 days, basically, 6 weeks really. So 42 days, I guess you could say, but about 45 days to make that decision. That's the least amount of time ever.
45 days to make the decision, because you got to even know you're pregnant. Most people
right, like, so sometimes it takes a month. So it's like after that, you got maybe a week or two Like, all right.
But like she said though, like, and that's if you had the even notion to even think that that would be the case. One of the interesting perspectives that I think about this whole law is, and it just kind of struck me when we were talking about it, was just like, yeah, I think, it's crazy that you have private citizens that will have an opportunity to enforce themselves into someone else's business in a sense. But I think we also have to take a step back and look at, how does that person know? You know what I mean? Because that's a personal thing, right? A person that's pregnant, da 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 da, or da da. So how would and we just said ourselves, individual may not know. I was looking at shows and they talk about it all the time, where sometimes women will be pregnant. It's almost like they might be late into their pregnancy before they figure out, oh my God, I was actually pregnant. I'm about to have the child, but I didn't even know the whole time I was pregnant, or something like that. Where, so I think due to the fact that the nature of, pregnancies can be, very different for women, and each time it can be different from the same woman. You feel me? That it's kind of tough for them to be able to do that. But I also think that you have to look at the same thing too. Is this really more of a law that's looking to try to regulate people? And I know this isn't the intent of the law, but is this something that would have an effect that would cause people to now be quiet and to hide certain things because of fear of what could possibly become prosecution?
I mean, this will bring back the Stop Snitching campaign, essentially, because what the law has here is that it's incentivizing citizens to sue other citizens for aiding these abortions. So the patient can't be sued, but the people who are aiding them, that's the illegal part. And they're trying to incentivize them with $10,000 if they are successful, right? And recoup their legal fees for also going to court, right? And I can bring up an article that highlights that a little later on in the show, because we want to discuss a few more things. But I find that point really interesting that Sam brought up, the reward portion of the law. That's very interesting, and trying to put everything in the citizens' hands instead of the government's hands, but by the state using their legislative powers to help aid the citizens in this snitching campaign, for lack of a better term.
Like, imagine, because people just talk, just in general, people tell
Right.
whatever. So what about like the court resources? One of the things that we always talked about, in school, is they always tell us, like, you know what I'm saying, we don't want to, flood the courts, or we want to be mindful of the court resources. And so who knows if this opened up floodgates to tons of litigation. And I guess it's not I'll say like a lot of people are out, but I don't know the numbers on how many people maybe have abortions or whatnot, so I can't speak to how often this could potentially provide for potential litigation in that state. But I do know that there are a lot of people who talk about being pregnant or whatever, just because I'm talking to their friends. It could be, maybe, or whatever, family members. And now I think that can lend itself to.
So for the first question that you asked, was how do people know? First of all, if the woman herself doesn't know, nobody's gonna know, right? But once she finds out, and if she's going to a clinic, and that clinic is known for giving out abortions, when she pulls up, all it takes is one activist outside that clinic to report, hey, this woman hopped out of the Uber with this driver, with this make model of this vehicle, and here's the license plate number. And now the Uber driver and woman, are essentially, potentially in trouble. As far as standing, that's one of the things that I was talking about as it relates to litigating the case. So standing is.
Hold on, real quick. I just want to say, like, what I meant by that was still, because technically, if you're within your 6 weeks, you're within all rights to go do what you do. You feel what I'm saying? You're within all rights.
But week 7, you still can't see it on a person. You know what I'm saying?
Right. But I'm saying, no one knows those weeks until you tell them.
But this is what I'm saying. All they have to do is, once they report it, right, it gives the police or whatever investigative entity the ability to go and do the research and investigate it to find out how far along these people are, right? Then they go ahead and
The
they
medical records and
in terms of drugs. Let's use drugs instead, right? If you have a snitch telling on homie on the block saying, oh, he's selling work out of his house, if the snitch is reliable and it's enough to get a warrant, they just go get the warrant and they do the search. And if they find the drugs, the person is prosecuted. You see what I'm saying? If it's, when you're talking about abortion, if it's somebody on there and they see them go in, they get the warrant, they go get the records, they see that they're beyond that time. And then the other part about it that I wanted to make sure I touched on.
So again, this is where I feel like
that's something that will have to be played out in court, though.
This is
right?
where I think the room for negotiation will be, or for the room for litigation. Because if, like you said, I don't care if you saw that my medical records show you, which again, HIPAA, all of that, but we in here, so let's go. I don't care if you see that my medical records showed you that on the 24th of most months, you know what I'm saying? This is the time frame. And this happened, whatever the place, I might have went to go see this place, whenever the case may be. You can't tell me that I didn't have a late period, I didn't know, and I just chose to go into this place and, you know.
Yeah, but remember the law doesn't, remember the law doesn't allow for you to not know. You see what I'm saying?
Right, I do understand. Ignorance of the law is not a rule, but my thing is this, like you saying, if she says that, okay, you know, normally sometimes I get it on the 24th, sometimes I might get it on the 13th, sometimes it might come on the 15th. Okay, cool. I think I might have been like a week or so before I came in and went. All right, I don't know. I might be a week before the 15th when I go in and get checked or whatever the case may be.
That's what makes this rule so unconstitutional, E. That's the point that I'm making. First of all, if you have a woman who's never had a regular period, how the hell is she going to know if her period is late? That's number one, okay?
So that's why I'm arguing that my client did not.
That's the exact point that I'm making. You don't know, but when she goes in, and remember, the conception date ranges by a week or so, maybe even 2, right? So they can say, oh, you look like you're about 6 weeks pregnant and you could be 8. You look like you're 4 weeks pregnant and you could be 6 in a day. It's not an exact science because number one, babies develop how they develop, they grow how they grow, and they come when they come. You see what I'm saying? And that's the other part about this law that it doesn't address, because you had a bunch of people who think they know something who don't know nothing, making a rule about somebody's body, not their own.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? And so at the end of the day, that's what I mean about all that. You know what I mean? And then to incentivize people, just like how Malik said, you know, to snitch. Like, what is that? Now, as far as the litigation aspect of it, then you have to deal with the whole constitutionality of whether or not, you know, because I know if I was defending somebody who was prosecuted for that, I promise you, I would be filing all kinds of motions to dismiss, because I need the random nosy neighbor who decided to start telling. I want her whole statement quashed because she doesn't. First of all, but how does she know? She's not involved in HIPAA. Hold on, she's not involved in HIPAA. You see what I'm saying? Now, remember, the HIPAA laws allow for any type of criminal investigation. Your records can be turned over, right?
Yeah.
But Betty next door, she's violating my HIPAA. Right? Is she really? If she just is assuming, no.
But then again, the state is giving that person standing to now.
But if Betty, if Betty finds out, because she came to your house and she used your bathroom and she saw the pregnancy test, right? And she then sees you never have a baby, and then she reports you, whether it's 4 months later, I think she had an abortion, and now they go get your medical. Guess what? She just violated.
Now we talking. Now we got a different situation.
She violated a different
situation.
You see what I'm saying? She just violated your privacy, and your privacy.
What did she now? Because now the argument goes to she was invited into your house. Did she break into the house and see?
No,
what was she invitee?
Okay, look,
now we gotta go back into that.
Privacy. Listen, hear this. You have no right to privacy for things that are on the public street. So she goes outside and she's digging through your trash and she finds it. That's one thing.
That's different. I
When
thought you
she
said she
goes
came
inside
into
your
your house
trash
and was
inside
in
of
your
your
bathroom.
if she digs in your trash inside of your home, she just invaded your privacy.
Also potential trespassing and some other issues as well.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
but see, what we're talking about right now is what makes the law really crazy, that anyone, regardless, outside of, you know, any government entity or officer, basically any civilian can bring up a lawsuit regardless of whether they were harmed or not. So I think that's what makes this law pretty interesting and crazy. But bring lawsuits, they suffered some type of harm.
And that's what I was going up with the standing aspect of it, right? So, you know, to our viewers, standing pretty much means you have the ability to bring the suit because you were directly affected by it, right? And if you are not directly affected by a particular thing, you cannot bring a suit at all because you don't have any rights to do so.
Again, so, none of your business. Right. Why are you trying to come
Why are you trying to bring a lawsuit about what
somebody else's business? You know.
Right. There's a whole adage out there that says what I eat don't make you shit. So mind your business, right? And this is one of those things. So, you know, when you're talking about abortion and you're talking about somebody else filing a suit because you're doing something that has absolutely no bearing or effect on them. Now, the thing about the law, yes, there is an exception. There's exceptions to every law, and then there's exceptions to exceptions. But the exception to the portion to the standing law is that other entities can bring a suit on your behalf, but it has to affect them in some kind of way. So like if a doctor says, hey, case in point, this abortion law, ABC Clinic, the lead doctor at ABC Clinic that does abortions can bring a suit on behalf of its patients saying that, hey, that this law is unconstitutional and it can directly affect the health and the safety of the women that come into my clinic. Because what's going to happen is, right, it's going to go back to, how it was before Roe v. Wade and before Casey versus Planned Parenthood, where women were out there doing abortions with
legal abortions. Yeah, people are going to have them.
Right, it's going to be unsafe and unhealthy. Now, the question that I have that I also want, we're going to get into a couple other things, but I have a question for you guys. I know I have my theory. It's a conspiracy theory, but this is one of the very few conspiracy theories I tend to prescribe to. Why do you all think that this law is the way that it is?
That's a tough one, honestly, because
it's definitely a political move. You know, I'll say that it's definitely a political move. I'm not sure how it really benefits the Republicans. It definitely attack on the liberals, liberal people who want the right to choose, those type of people, and it's definitely galvanizing the, you know, pro-life movement and those people. So I really don't have any conspiracy behind it because they've been after this for years, like for a long time.
Yeah,
they want a total ban, but they're trying to restrict it as much as possible.
Yeah, this one, I don't know. Like, I think a little bit more so just being like a Southern type of thing where it's just like, listen, we don't, we never really wanted, we didn't believe in that. That's not nothing that we believe in out here. And we wanted to show you guys that, you know what I'm saying, that that's not a part of the Bible. And this is, some of that type of stuff. But the reason why I say it's kind of crazy to me is because I feel like when you look at, and twofold. Maybe it's because, and I don't know these guys, but like, I guess and this is again, no background on nothing. I don't know what Texas stats on abortion are based on race or things of that nature, but I would like to know. I do know that you know what I'm saying, still like, what I do know just based off of society and in numbers in this nation is that there's still more white people in this earth than there are, you know what I'm saying, minorities. And so if you have a law like this, it could try to help prevent people from, essentially lowering their race count and allowing for, like, again, you have, especially in a state like Texas, where you might have people coming from the borders and issues that they have, We have other people coming into this country and other races. And so like they could, in myself, it could be like a self-preservation type of situation where they want people to say, listen, if we can have children and we are the majority in this country and in the state, we want to maintain that. So we will look to try to make sure that people don't have abortions in this country.
Well, I mean, that's actually what my theory is, right? My theory is they have, and when I say they, there's actually real numbers, statistics, and all of that. The population of white people in this country is going down. The population of minorities is going up, right? And so it's a way to, because white women are not having children at the same rate that they used to, because more white women are working, more white women don't want children, whatever the case may be. And so it's a way to prevent that from happening. The problem that they don't seem to care about is how it adversely affects minorities and people with no money, right? Who can't afford to have a child, but they can afford to have an abortion, right? Or people who just don't want to have kids, or people who have issues. They also don't want to help these people who can't afford to have children, right? And what I mean by that is you want to get rid of any type of public assistance. These people already don't have money. You want to get rid of public assistance. You want to get rid of any type of, whether it be, you don't really hear too much about WIC, but you want to get rid of food stamps, Social Security, any of that stuff. You don't want to give help. Then the road to abort, there's no way to take care of these children. If women don't, if parents, let me not even say women, because a lot of people make these decisions about having an abortion along with their partner. You see what I'm saying? And so if these parents are not ready or not willing to have children, what do you do with them? Now they become orphaned, or you put them in a situation where they're going to be abused and harmed because they were unwanted children. And so
or like if people feel like they, you know what I mean, if you're in a sense, if you're not able to provide for a child and you have to have that child, you know what I mean, you're going to continue to depend on, some government resources possibly. You may not be able to, like you said, you weren't able to provide for it in itself. So, I think that's one of the things. It's like, it kind of like, it's another like wheel to kind of keep it going. You know what I mean?
And it's sad, right? Because like I said at the top of the show, you have children who are victims of rape, you have and incest, you have women or females rather who are also victims of rape or incest, who just don't want to have a child, who cannot afford to have a child, or who physically are putting their life. What a lot of times people don't talk about is the kind of stress that a pregnancy has on a woman's body. You know what I'm saying? It puts a lot of stress on a woman's body. It takes nutrients from her. She has to be very careful in what she does, things like that. And although all women aren't like that, and all women and all pregnancies are not that way, it does. It ultimately does. It puts a stress and a strain. You're literally carrying around another person, and that person is feeding off of you. You see what I'm saying? And so they don't think about that. And when somebody has a medical condition, you know what I mean, that puts that woman's life in greater risk, or she could potentially die because she's pregnant. That's a choice that she should be able to make. Whether she wants to live or whether she's giving her life for somebody else. And everybody is not built like that. If that was the case, everybody would enroll in the military. Everybody would go be a police officer or a firefighter or have the type of job where they're putting their life on the line every single day for their job. Everybody is not built like that, and it's not required for everybody, And so, it's not fair to take away that choice from anybody. One of the things that I thought about earlier today, I had this analogy that popped up into my head, is if you have a plant, let's say you don't have a plant, you have a seed, right? And you want a plant to grow. You're going to get some soil, you're going to dig a hole, you're going to bury it, the seed, you're going to nurture it, you're going to care for it, water it, give it sunlight, talk to it, whatever you got to do. Just like a man would a female. I mean, when they want to have a baby. But you can also dig holes without planting seeds. You see what I'm saying? And that's just pretty much having sex, whether it's protected or pulling out, whatever you do, whatever your situation is. Okay. The thing about it is they always want to control the soil where the seed is sown, but they never want to control the seed sower. Does that make sense? Like
Yeah, it makes sense.
Wait a second. Hold on. Wait.
I
Hey,
mean,
you get a little seed sower now.
Well, hold on. Why is it okay to control
you
the
want to control the farmer.
Right. Why is it why always?
No,
I mean,
let's
I
control
get
that
it.
soil ground now.
Like, stop playing.
But no, but seriously
Conditions
though. Seriously though, y'all always want to control the land.
How removing the seed from the soil.
Hold on,
Right?
y'all. They always want to control the land, but they never want to control the farmer.
because
Nah, see, no, it's because they farmers
land is more suitable for other crops.
No, that ain't it. You know what I'm saying?
I'm telling you, they don't grow sugar cane out in the desert.
This is as unacceptable as it is.
But Sam, speaking of control,
it should be
you know
equal.
that Texas has some of the most restrict, like, even if you do successfully get the abortion, they have counseling, they have everything they want you to try to do to not get the abortion. So Texas is definitely one of the more strict states when it comes to, abortions, and they barely have enough clinics, per
Closing them down.
Yeah, exactly. So even with the ones that are open, it's barely enough for the women to get said abortion. So, they're doing everything they can, like it's their number one problem, because abortions have been going down across the country, quite frankly. So I don't think it's even as much of a problem as it used to be. But here I'm gonna pull up an article, video actually. The Department of Justice filing a suit against Texas over this recent abortion ban. So one moment here as I pull this, share my screen with you guys so you can see that. All right, can y'all see it? All right.
Department has filed a lawsuit against the state of Texas. Our position is set out in detail in our complaint. Its basis is as follows. SB 8 bans nearly all abortions in the state after 6 weeks of pregnancy, before many women even know they are pregnant, and months before a pregnancy is viable. It does so even in cases of rape, sexual abuse, or incest. The Justice Department has filed a lawsuit against the state of Texas.
So let's talk about that, guys. So that's the main factor here, that I definitely wanted to highlight in that video is, even if you are raped, you still can't get an abortion. Like, it's still illegal if someone aids you or takes you there, even if rape, right? So I need to reread the law, but from my understanding, okay, the patient can't be sued for it, but somebody else could be sued for it, even in cases of the rape. So that's my understanding. I would have to go back and reread the article and look at that statute again. But from my understanding, that's basically what the Department of Justice is saying. And what do y'all guys think about that? That's
I definitely think that was kind of like good for the department to come in, because again, it is super restrictive, and then at the same time, like Sam said, she brought these up earlier. Like, there are certain points and certain times in which we can't look at this as it's a straight line answer. You feel what I'm saying? Like, two consensual people can decide to make this choice, and both consensual individuals decided, or one or two, like whatever. Like, no, there's so many other factors that go into it. You know what I mean? Because of how wild this world is and the things that go on in it. So I feel like, yes, like, you feel me? Like you said, and coming up with the parameters in which the country has ruled on saying that abortions were allowed, and like the factors that need to occur, looking into the woman's health and in her life, and choosing if she wants to continue to live, or choose the choice of the child. again, like you said, the aspects into how that, the situation in that child came about. Is it a child of rape? Is it a child of, incest or something like that, or child abuse or things of that nature? Looking into all of those other factors and things of that nature, and like you said, not to mention the viability of the child, not to mention, the woman's understanding of the body and just the human body and how it functions. I think it's like you said, we're trying to govern, science and to a point where it's so restrictive that we're making it a bright line type of situation where it's really not. And I think I think the law needs to be able to have room for flexibility based off of, certain situations. And if they aren't able to figure that out at the moment in which they wanted to create the law, then they should take a little bit more time to do a little more research, to go ahead and define more information about the types of pregnancies that occur, the types of ways that people are being pregnant, maybe the types of abortions that are occurring from that type of and if women are willing to provide that information, why they're choosing to have those abortions or whatnot. And then they can maybe figure out what factors that they need to add to the law to maybe make it less restrictive, but also encompassing enough information that allows for a range for women to feel comfortable in making the decisions that they need to make. And I also feel like at the same time, men need to be able to have factors in the choices as well if they aren't, any type of ill will or any type of ill play in that. So I just want to also say that too. I am an advocate of, men having a choice, but that's not, again, here or there. I just wanted to just say that. You guys are on mute. You guys are all on mute.
My bad. One thing I wanted to make sure I clarified is that although we talk about, different instances of such as rape and incest and things of that nature, where people should be able to get an abortion, it's the caveat to that is if they so choose, right? Because a person can easily be a victim of rape and still want to keep that baby. They should be able to do that if they choose to do that. And that right there is the difference between being pro-life and being pro-choice. Someone that's pro-choice says, look, whatever the circumstances are, it should be your choice to make. It shouldn't be the choice of the government to make about your body and what you choose to do. Because let's put the shoe on the other foot. What happens if a person is a victim of rape or incest or something like that, and they get pregnant and they want to keep the baby, but the law requires them not to? That's just as heinous as telling somebody that they have to have a baby when they don't want to. You see what I'm saying? And so, I think that it's really important to make sure you understand the distinction, because pro-choice people feel like if a person gets pregnant, they should keep the baby, period. And it doesn't always work like that. That's not how life is. Like E said, it's not linear. There are definitely a lot of curves and squiggle lines and bumps and all that other stuff in the road. So, I think it's important to just remember that. I know we have a couple other things we wanted to show you.
I got the article pulled up, which highlights a lot of the points. I'll try to kind of go over it as fast as I can here that we're talking about. It really describes this law very accurately. So we were just talking about the rapist situation. So a rapist, so if somebody rapes the woman, they can't sue. But let's say if they have a friend or something, they can sue to stop the abortion, basically. So that's what that's saying right here. Someone else can sue, right? But not the person who did the rape, right?
Like, what does that do to the mental health of a person who's been victimized? Like, if a person has been raped, right, and they get pregnant and they don't want to keep that baby, and then they're forced to keep that baby, could you imagine what it does to the mental health of that person? I mean, it's sad.
That's exactly why the Justice Department is suing the state of Texas over this law. And then there's also the where is it at? I saw the bounty here that we're talking about, the stop snitching aspect. Here it is. So the states award a 10,000, basically a snitch reward for a successful lawsuit. So if you successfully sue somebody who, violated the law, you get that $10,000 reward. And the State Department's saying that you don't even know if you have a viable pregnancy within 6 weeks. So that's why they're bringing the suit, and a lot of women don't know, like Sam was eloquently pointing out earlier. So that's crazy as it is. Like, it's just like it's basically like, hey, the government can't really restrict everything because of the history of Roe v. Wade, but we can have the private citizens who's not a state actor be able to basically snitch on others, and we'll reward them in court. So they're trying to really come up with very creative legal ways to circumvent, Roe v. Wade and get around it. So that's very interesting. Once a lawsuit actually happens under these new laws, once they take effect, that's going to be interesting to see the results of what's going to happen. I can see it being overturned, but that's just me. I don't know how long this is going to last, but it is Texas, and the Supreme Court did say what they said about it, so they're letting it go through. So what do y'all guys think about some of this stuff? They're allowing people to snitch. Rapists can't they can't sue, but another person can sue if a woman was raped. It's just a crazy law. But this article here from the Texas Tribune is really helpful because it helps give you some of the statutes and explains everything very clearly. I'll post a link in the description of the video to help you guys out as well. So
I think it's unbelievable that we even have to have this discussion in 2021. You know what I'm saying? The fact that there's so many restrictions. Okay, the woman can't be sued, but the doctor can for being a doctor, or the Uber driver can for being an Uber driver. It's like going to jail for going to work and your job is not illegal. Like, what is that? People really just gotta mind their business. I mean, I just don't understand it. I don't know what makes somebody say, hey, I'm gonna be so heavy in somebody else's business that I'm gonna tell on them just so I can get a couple dollars. Like, it just doesn't make sense to me. Just, I don't, it's something I just cannot wrap my mind around.
It's indicative of today's world. Because think about where we're at. We're in a social media type. You feel what I'm saying? Like, what's wild to me is almost as though like it was like the senators had like a moment of like youth and was like, we're gonna troll, so we're gonna just start like, this is exactly
Right.
what this is. You feel what I'm saying? This is trolling, and I'm just like, again, and it's weird because like I said, it's not like Congress is normally made up of young liberal type, you know what I'm saying, or young like kids that are in the internet era like that would do some stuff like this. You just give anybody a right to say something. That's the internet era. Like, that's what that was. You know what I mean?
Right. Also too, we have an article, but you don't have to bring it up, Malik. The Planned Parenthood, they actually filed a temporary restraining order against an organization. Let me tell you what it was real quick. That was against a Texas anti-abortion group to stop them from suing state abortion providers and healthcare workers. So what they were trying to do is, this particular group, there were some of those nosy people, those nosy snitches that we were talking about, that, feel the need that, okay, the healthcare providers and the abortion providers, they should be sued. Well, here's the thing, right? People always think that because somebody goes to Planned Parenthood, it's because they're pregnant. Planned Parenthood actually offers a lot of other things other than pregnancy tests and abortions. They give gynecological exams. I know I just said that wrong. OBGYN exam, gynecological. No, I said that right. They said that they give those types of exams. They give out birth control. They do. They give other healthcare assistance. They screen for breast cancer. You know what I'm saying? There are a lot of other things that Planned Parenthood is good for. And people are on this crazy campaign to shut them down as if they don't do other things. And I think that it's important to understand that, to know that, first of all, don't think that just because somebody can go get an abortion at Planned Parenthood, that that's all they do. It's like thinking the only thing you can get at McDonald's is a burger, but you can actually get something that's kind of like chicken, just like the burger is kind of like a burger. It's not a real burger, just like that ain't real chicken, in my opinion. But you know what I'm saying? I think that it's important to recognize that. And with that being said, you know, people really just gotta stay focused on what they got going on in front of them. There's enough things going on in this world with COVID and everything else. Like you won't stop a 12-year-old. I did read this somewhere. It says you won't stop a 12 year. You are gonna stop it. Texas wants to stop a 12-year-old girl from wearing a mask to school, but they won't. But they want to regulate whether or not she can have an abortion. She can't have an abortion, but she ain't got to wear a mask. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's just about politics, and they want to be able to, influence their religious ideologies into the politics, even though they're not supposed to do that. So that's what I think personally. Like they believe they don't believe in those abortions, so they want it into law. But unfortunately for them, the Supreme Court and Roe v. Wade ruled against it. So that's my thought on that. That's their agenda there. What do you think, E?
I definitely think that the Supreme Court was sitting there looking to try to like reinforce, you know, that they were just trying to like reinforce the fact that they're hoping that, either like you said, DOJ, or that maybe they knew that something else was coming down the way to kind of like offset this law and make it so that it fits. So they was like, let's stand back real fast before someone else brings a challenge to it, and we actually have to go ahead and do it. And that's what my personal, that's why they took the stance that they took, and that's how
Right.
Yeah. So I think next we're going to dive into, we're going to switch gears a little bit and go ahead and get into our motivational minute. Everett, do you have the motivational minute?
Yes, I do. Before we go into that as well, I just want to do one more time for the Black business and share that here. So once again, that was the turning points of Lansing.org. They are again looking for mentors and any individual who may want to come and help provide any type of guidance or information that they can in their times to some young men in the area, and having a kickoff meeting Sunday, the 16th of September. And I think here, I don't know if you guys can see the flyer. Pretty good. There we go. Yeah, Sunday is the 19th of September, the 19th, 45. There's some information there in regards to the location. Yeah.
Sorry, we can't really hear you.
Oh, I was saying there's some information in regards to the location and where they'll be hosting it. That's at the Harry Hill Vocational Center there in Lansing, Michigan. If anyone is available, once again, the turning points of Lansing, Michigan, and gentlemen looking to start their semester off or season off this year with their mentees, and building more mentors that's in that area. So I wanted to go ahead and promote that, let everybody know about that event. And if they were in the area and wanted to support, that they could. And that's that one. And now I want to also go into our quote of the day. It is brought to us by a good friend of mine growing up, Captain Planet. And it is simply, the power is yours. The power to do right is yours, and the power to do wrong is yours. The state legislators of Texas have the right to, have, the power to justify and fix and amend, this state law that they currently have in board that, clearly is controversial and has a lot of issues and the public has a lot of issues with it, as well as private citizens who can have the right to enforce these laws. They have the right to, the power to choose what's right in this situation, whatever that is for them, or was wrong. You know what I'm saying? And I guess that's all depending on how a person looks at things. One thing I know about life is it's all on perception. You know what I'm saying? Again, you could think this law is completely wrong in one regards, but it depends on the type of mindset. Again, as we stated earlier, that you're coming from. So, depending on the viewpoint that you have, you really want to use your power. And unfortunately, where the power has lied in the views of which individuals with that power has chosen to make. So now to the citizens as well, the power is yours. You know what I'm saying? The power is yours to go ahead and contact your legislators and let them know how you feel about it if you feel that way in Texas. The power is with the DOJ as well to step in and to go ahead and try to enforce or challenge this law that currently standing in Texas. So power is yours. Always remember that, and that is something that comes from our good friend Captain Planet. So that is our quote for the day, everyone.
Yeah, shout out to Captain Planet because that was, I want to piggyback off of our motivational minute for my conclusion. And it's about choice, right? Just thinking about slavery, right? Most people can agree that slavery was wrong, but it was once upon a time very legal. You see what I'm saying? And so just because something is legal doesn't make it right. And, just because somebody has the power to do something doesn't mean that they should. The other thing is, too, when people lean on the Bible to justify why somebody should or should not be able to get an abortion, remember something, that for those that believe in God and follow the Bible or the Torah or the Quran, one of the things that it talks about is that God blesses us with the power of choice. It's something that he has not taken away from us. He will not take away from us. It's a power that he gave us. And because we have that power, we have the power to choose. How do you justify removing somebody's ability to choose, which is a God-given thing? I think that it's important to recognize that people should be able to make the choices that they want for their own lives. It's not up to anybody else. Now, if you're out there violating laws that are put in place to keep everybody safe, right? Then, of course, that's the purpose of law and order, so that, there's not complete chaos. And so it's not that I'm saying that people need to be running about lawless and doing all kind of crazy things. But it is to say that when these legislatures make these laws, although they have the power, it doesn't mean they always choose right. And I think that it's important that when we make decisions about our own lives, that we have to do our best to choose what's right. So just keep trying to make good decisions. Keep thinking about the fact that there are other people out here walking around on the planet. We do have to share this planet with one another. So be good to one another. And remember that, the choice is yours, and choose right and do right by people. Yeah, and that's pretty much what I have for today. Malik?
Yeah, what I have for today is just it's very important to get involved with your local politics. This is what can happen, and get involved in the legal system. If there's any elected offices or any judges, any other legislators, you definitely want to get involved, because this is a result of certain groups of people or certain political parties or affiliation getting what they want through the legal system and through the political system, which you also can get involved in, right, through elections and through that process and be involved with the community. So if you want to see that change, I think this is a good sign to where you want to get involved. If you don't agree with this law, if you do agree with this law, that's even more reason to get involved, because you want to see the law upheld as well. So it goes both ways on this issue. I think the law needs to be amended personally. That's where I stand on it, but other people might agree with it. So I think I think that's whatever fight that you have in this, it definitely should be amended, in my opinion. I think if it does stay in some capacity, it definitely needs to be amended in a lot of ways, in my personal opinion. If I had authority over it, but I don't. So that's my final say. You got anything?
For sure. I definitely think that this is a law that also should be either repealed and or amended. That it's a question that should be left between the woman as well as the possible father of the child in regards to
Ye-
that. Okay. Yeah, I was saying that I think that this is definitely a situation in which it's something that I think that should be left open to the child, excuse me, the mother of the child, as well as the possible potential father of the child as well to decide. Those are issues that I think that they should look at, with ultimately the decision being held in the woman's choice, is how it is their life that is going to be burying the child in that situation. And I think with the guise of, again, with the goals of other factors that may go into the situation. But nonetheless, again, I think the law should be upheld. Excuse me, I think the law should be repealed and or amended so that it allows for more choices within the woman to be able to make decisions within her body and or health issues that they may face within carrying that child. Another thing that I think that also can occur is that, like you said, the people can step up, and the individuals who truly are disturbed by this could go ahead in their state, excuse me, in the state of Texas, to reach out to their senators, and let them know how they really feel about it. And other than that, I definitely want to go ahead and just get ready to go ahead and close this out by saying that, again, the power is yours, and that you can catch me as well as the rest of us on Wednesdays. Every Wednesday around 8:30ish, we're going live on Instagram. We do our What's Up Wednesday. We also go live here, as you see, every day around 11:30ish to on Facebook, and we post these on Zoom. You can catch me at that guy 2104 and Instagram as well. So if you guys have anything that you want to let us know, questions or any topics that you might want to have us reach out to, just let us know. Leave a comment anytime, and that's my information and everything I have on the show.
Yeah, just to echo what he said, yep, make sure you catch us here on every Sunday at around 11:30, 12 o'clock-ish, right here on Facebook Live, for our Counterpoise podcast. You can check it, make sure you like and add our page to your thing and check us out, okay? Also, too, we are on YouTube. This is going to get posted to YouTube probably within the next half an hour, maybe by 2-ish, right? So make sure you like, share, subscribe to our YouTube channel for Counterpoise Podcast. Also, make sure you like, share, and subscribe to our Instagram page for What's Up Wednesday. If you want to follow me, you can follow me right here on Facebook at Samantha Adams-ESQ, or over there on Instagram at Samantha Renee 77 _ESQ. Like, share, subscribe, tell a friend to tell a friend, and make sure you tap in. Malik.
Yeah, guys, thank you for joining us today on our podcast. You can follow me at Malik M. Foster on all social media handles. Also, if you guys want us to talk about different topics, you can reach us on the Instagram, Counterpoise Instagram. You can DM us on the YouTube page. You can drop a comment on the videos. And on Facebook, you can drop a comment on the videos too, and hit us up in the DMs, and we'll be more than willing to discuss a topic of your choice. Just let us know. And so that's it. Thank you for joining us, and tell a friend.
And we will see y'all on Wednesday.
Peace.